it was exhilarating to feel like some folks were putting their faith in DonorsChoose as their way to be of service. That felt exhilarating. It felt like a big honor. It felt like we had to do right by that. It felt like an opportunity for DonorsChoose. I will tell you, one of the most embarrassing things I ever did as an entrepreneur was right at this time.
Let's hear it.
I had cold called a reporter at the New York Times who was covering philanthropy. Her name was Stephanie Strom. She was a new reporter covering this new beat of philanthropy and charities. And I mailed her some materials. I didn't hear back from her, so I called her up and she said, "Yeah, I got your materials, but DonorsChoose, this is not exactly a newsworthy story. Maybe if ever I'm asked to do a listing of online charities, which was a new concept at the time, maybe I'll do a story on you, but this is kind of small potatoes." So I was like, all right, too bad. And I figured I'd try one other big time reporter. I called the senior editor at Newsweek. His name was Jonathan Alter. I called him first because his letter showed up. His last name was first in the alphabetical directory. And his assistant must have been out to lunch because he picked up the phone and I said, "Hey, I'm a teacher in the Bronx. I started this nonprofit with my students. You want to hear about it?" And he said, "Sure." And we talked for my whole lunch break. And he wrote a couple paragraphs for the Newsweek website saying that here was this charity that might change the face of philanthropy. So I called up Stephanie Strom at the New York Times, all excited. And I was like, "Hey, Newsweek saw us as newsworthy, at least for their website. So won't you give us a second look?" And she said, "I wouldn't touch your story with a 10-foot pole now that another outlet has covered you. The New York Times does not follow in the footsteps of other publications." Wow. So I felt like an idiot for having, not realized that, you don't talk about another outlet covering you if you're pitching the New York Times. And I wrote her an email apologizing for being so dumb, and she wrote back and she said, you shouldn't feel so bad because
come on, who knows that? You're like, well, it makes sense now, but
right, exactly.
Who knows that?
Exactly. So she wrote back saying, you shouldn't feel so bad because you didn't have a chance in the first place, because her editors had asked her to focus on charities responding to 9/11. And I was like, oh wait, so here's actually my opening, because all these teachers beside Ground Zero are posting projects on our site focused on 9/11 recovery. So I wrote her an email over the weekend telling her about all those projects. And I called her up over the weekend so I wouldn't interrupt her while she was on deadline, left her a voicemail saying, "This is the last time you're going to hear from me. If you could just read this one final email." Monday, I was back at school teaching. I checked my email in between periods. Stephanie Strom had written back. She said she wanted to come do an interview for a major feature story in the New York Times.
Oh, man.
I forwarded her email to my friend and I said, "Guess who said she wouldn't touch our story with a 10-foot pole and now wants an interview? That's what hustling will get you." I beat my chest. I talked all kinds of smack. And then I realized that I had not hit forward. I'd hit reply. And the moment I sent the email,
you just baited me, because I totally thought that the most embarrassing thing was like, I didn't know about this information.
No,
way.
It was so much worse than that. So I sent this trash talking, "Guess who said she wouldn't touch our story with a 10-foot pole and now wants an interview" email directly to that reporter. And I yanked the electrical cord from out of the computer to try and turn it off before the email would send, but I was too late and it sent. So I sent her another email apologizing for being so dumb again. And she took mercy on me, and it didn't hold her back from proceeding to do a story that said DonorsChoose might be the future of philanthropy. And that is really to her credit and to my boneheadedness. But yeah, and I've never
two apologies in.
Two apologies in. And everybody needs that experience of, that one inadvertent, you're replying when you think you're forwarding, and mine was just especially traumatic.